Something huge is looming for the San Antonio Spurs as this offseason begins to approach. GM Brian Wright has a big decision to make regarding Jeremy Sochan. It has some Spurs fans split, especially with how the outlook looks over the next few years regarding Stephon Castle and some other young guys. We have to dive into the Jeremy Sochan contract extension. We're going to talk a little bit about the money and some comparables, plus Stephon Castle himself, an updated look at Rookie of the Year odds. It's something historic he just did. A bunch of that plus more coming up on this episode of Spurs Digest. But guys, first, I want to share something we are genuinely super excited about here at Spurs Digest, and it's a partnership with Hot Takes for March Madness. Have a look. We are pumped to be launching a March Madness bracket for the channel. We've partnered with the Hot Takes app and other Digest media channels for this event. It's completely free to sign up. Just download the Hot Takes app, click the March Madness banner at the top, and under Groups, select Digest Media Pool. This is super exciting as there's over $25,000 in prizes to be won. And since there's a much smaller pool than normal bracket challenges, there's a real chance you can win big. So check out the link below or scan the QR code to download the app and make sure you use the code DIGEST, all caps DIGEST, when you sign up. You'll get exclusive perks when you join if you do that, guys. This is amazing. The main event round starts on March 16th, so get in quickly. Get in now. If you have any trouble, any questions about signing up, email us. The email will be left down below. Thank you to Hot Takes for partnering with us on this amazing competition. Let's get right into the video. Now, first things first, let's talk a bit about Stephon Castle. So, I want to just highlight this. This is the first thing I wanted to talk about. We're not going to talk about the game. That seems to be a little bit of a theme recently here on the channel. A lot of the time we don't have the videos out right after the game. And honestly, look, the Spurs can lose to anyone at this point. But this was before the game yesterday. Most points off the bench in a 6-game span in Spurs history. Manu Ginobili, 144 points. Second place, Stephon Castle with 140 points between February 26th to March 9th. Now, this doesn't count last game either. So, regardless, Stephon Castle, second all-time in Spurs history for most points off the bench in a 6-game span. Is it a little cherry-picked? I mean, I guess you could argue picking 6 specifically maybe makes it a little more cherry-picked, but, regardless, this is unbelievable. So I just wanted to share this first, but we got to take a look at the updated Rookie of the Year odds, because at this point, our boy pretty much has it on lock, right? Stephon Castle, I talked at length about him in last video, and a lot of it was some good stuff, right? Some great stuff, his performance as of late. And I brought up the point that I think he should start the rest of the way, but I think a lot of you in the comments made some great points in that it's not necessarily about starting, it's just about getting playing time. And honestly, that's what he's been able to do at this point in the season. Look, Mitch Johnson is fighting for his head coaching job here, especially if Gregg Popovich doesn't end up coming back. So the onus is on him now to figure out the lineups that work best. And developing Stephon Castle, in my opinion, is, if you do a good job with it, that's the number one thing you can do to, further cement. Well, winning, I guess, is probably the number one thing you can do, but that's hard to do with this roster, okay? But regardless, right now, Stephon Castle leading the way, Jalen Wells second, Ricochet third. Honestly, I'd maybe even have Ricochet second. He's been great recently, but whatever. I'm okay if he's not doing great because the Hawks are not doing great. However, the Hawks are currently on a 3-game win streak. I just wanted to show this stuff with Stephon Castle and a little updated look after last night's loss. So, after last night's loss, looking at this in the capture the flag race, oh my gosh. Can you imagine? I know we get hyped about that. Look, Wemby's gone for the season. This is what I'm clinging to right now. I still want to see the team win. I still want to see the guys progress. But if the guys can have good games, the young guys can have good games, and we can get a better draft pick, I'm all for that. Toronto won last night. Brooklyn won last night. The Chicago Bulls have won 3 in a row thanks to secret agent Zach Collins going in there and playing actual quite good basketball, helping them win games. The Spurs have lost 3 in a row. They have the biggest losing streak here of any team below them minus Utah and New Orleans. So you got Philadelphia's only lost 1. The Raptors have won 1. Charlotte's on a 2-game win streak. Making up the ground now, though, between 13 games back and 8.5 games back between San Antonio and Brooklyn is going to be tough the rest of the way. I don't think there's any world the Spurs end with like a top 4, maybe even top 5 draft odds. I just wanted to give this a highlight because at this point, it's getting down to the wire. Now, the Hawks pick is currently slotted at 16th, but they've won 3 in a row. They're only 2.5 games their difference between them and a lottery pick. So there's just something, well, there's a lot to keep an eye on moving forward. So keep an eye on that yourself. But I want to switch gears and I want to talk about Jeremy Sochan. Now, there's a lot of questions about Sochan, his injury, his health. Ultimately, back stuff is no joke. And I mean, the famous saying is, I don't know anyone that used to have a bad back. It's indicating that pretty much anyone that has a bad back will always have a bad back to some extent. NBA players, they got the best therapy in the world. They got the best doctors in the world. Probably less of a concern, but still mildly concerning. But there's a big question. Now, this is a fantastic article coming from Air Alamo. I'm going to link it down below because it got me thinking. I wasn't really thinking about Sochan's extension, but they made me think of it. So I'll let you go read it. I'm not going to reference a ton of the text in it. I'm going to kind of come to my own conclusions here. But in essence, they say that they think he should come in between Keldon Johnson and between Devin Vassell's rookie extensions. So the thing is, Jeremy Sochan is due for this extension. And if we just flash up his stats here, I mean, like 11 points per game this season, quite solid, 7 boards, 2.5 assists a game. He's shooting 55% from the field, 33% from three. Overall, he's been great, and we know how much of a monster he can be defensively, even if the advanced defensive metrics don't necessarily paint him in the best light. That's partly because of the Spurs team defense. Now, Wemby, of course, is always going to have these great defensive stats. The rest of the way, you're hoping Sochan can do a bit on his own. The problem, though, with him is that he's been deployed at so many different positions. I think it's hard for analytical models to really grasp his true impact. But I want to take a look at some of the comparable extensions here. And also, if we look at Sochan throughout his career so far, I think he's gotten better. The numbers seem to indicate, the field goal percentage has climbed a lot. The three-point percentage has climbed a lot, but the total numbers have stayed pretty steady. But that's because his minutes have gone down, especially this year, not starting as many games as last year, thanks to the amazing, I don't even know if I want to say resurgence, but the amazing play of Harrison Barnes. This guy's been amazing. Harrison Barnes has been great. Fantastic game against Dallas last night. So, I don't know. I like Harrison Barnes. But Sochan's turnovers are coming down. His rebounds are going up. His defensive impact, we know how good it is. And the points early in the season, it looked really good. So, all the indications are that Sochan's going to continue to get better. But when it comes to a contract extension, the Spurs, I don't think, are going to want to go too far off the deep end. And I think we're actually in a good position, and here's why. Like I mentioned, Jeremy Sochan does have a bit of injury history. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be there for the rest of his career. It could. That's up to the Spurs medical staff to determine. So, that is a negotiation tactic for the Spurs side to get him at a lower number. And if we look here, he's again 5th on the team in value over replacement player, even though he's only played in 43 games. Stephon Castle's at the bottom. Look, this favors efficiency. In essence, it's a way to see how many points per 100 possessions you are better than a replacement level player, which is like a bench level player. But if we look at some comparables, we look here at Devin Vassell, right? Vassell signed that 5-year, $135 million contract with an average annual salary of $27 million. So, is Sochan going to get that money? That, to me, I think is actually a no. And I think Devin Vassell's career numbers, especially like that type of player, Devin Vassell, who can score a lot, who could be efficient from three, especially from the corners. You see the growth pattern. You project him into like a second-tier scorer, a guy that can average 20 a game any given night. That's the kind of money you pay. And I think a lot of us thought of it as at least fair. Some of us even thought a bargain. I remember thinking at the time, I thought that's a pretty solid deal. And the Spurs historically have some pretty good deals with their guys. Even though DeJounte Murray, didn't end up working out. We got some picks for it, so maybe it did. That contract I thought was very good. They projected it well. Vassell could still age into something good. Even Keldon Johnson's at about a $20 million cap hit. Realistically, 18.5. I think he's at a decent deal as well. So not only is there precedent for the Spurs to give fair deals to their guys in terms of from the Spurs side, like, let's make sure we have this team, right? We don't want to spend too much on a couple of players so that we're handcuffed in terms of bringing in other players through trade or through free agency. I know free agency is a sore subject at times for Spurs fans. Chris Paul came. Some people want to play here. Fox wanted to play here. Maybe that'll change. But regardless, right now, between 18.5 and 27, I think is bang on. I actually think, personally, that you're going to see Sochan's contract up near this $25 to $27 million range, simply because when Vassell signed this extension, the cap was a bit lower. The salary cap's going up and up every year. So in terms of strictly numbers, you have to inflate it a bit for the NBA salary cap every year. I would say Sochan's coming in at about $25 million per season. And honestly, I could absolutely live with that, especially if his defense continues to thrive, which we have no indication that it should stop. His three-point shooting continues to improve year over year. His slashing game this year is the best it's ever been, I believe. The two-man pick and rolls with him and Wemby were unbelievable. He's learning a lot as the years go by, and even if he stays at this impact in offense, even if he turns into like a 14-8 kind of guy who can give you very, very high-tier defense and can shoot 37, 38% from three, maybe that's asking a lot, but that is absolutely worth that kind of of money, especially as a glue guy. But I want to know what you guys have to say about Sochan, because this is a big decision for the Spurs going forward, how they're going to manage their cap, how we're going to manage the team with bringing in a few players a few years down the line. There's going to be a lot of questions, but this is one of the first ones. So let me know. He's eligible this summer, but that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and also check out Hot Takes, guys. You made it this far in the video, 10 minutes in. Like, I promise there's no catch. It's completely free. Email, password. That's all you need. You can sign up, join our pool. I'm in there. The other hosts, Keenan and Brian, we're all in there. Join us. Try and win some big bucks completely free. It's really genuinely awesome. I'm your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.